For welcoming me to this committee. I look forward to representing my constituents in the 36th Congressional District on this committee. You know, I remember very well on September 11th, as we all do, where we were, what our first thoughts were. I had just been elected to the City Council of Los Angeles, and my council district includes the Port of Los Angeles. And I represent over 100,000 people that just physically, you know, sit right next to the Port of Los Angeles. And while the September 11th attacks were aviation related, my first thought was the vulnerability of the Port of Los Angeles. 10 years later, and now representing those same constituents in Congress, I am still concerned about the Port of Los Angeles. Between the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, we account for about 44% of the trade that comes into this country. We have about 5,000 men and women who actually work on those docks on a daily basis. And I think it's our seaports that are still probably the most vulnerable entryway into this country. And while you talk about how we have evolved in granting these Homeland Security grants to more represent threat, vulnerability, and consequence, and Honorable Hamilton, as you said, they have given us a roadmap that the target will be something that does great damage and is symbolic. I think an attack on America's port in Long Beach and Los Angeles could create a significant impact to our national economy and our global economy. So, you know, I've spent 10 years on the City Council working with my predecessor, Jane Harmon, in improving the security of both LA International Airport and the Port of Los Angeles. But I'd like to know from the panel, what do you think we in Congress should be doing, can do, to improve the security at our ports?
My judgment would be that we've not focused enough on the ports, and I think the enormous vulnerability would be in inadequate inspection of cargo. Probably would be a major problem. I'm not up to date on what's been done on that. I do recall being disappointed again at the state of our technology with regard to detection. You have these massive amounts of materials coming into the country in ships, and our ability to identify dangerous materials, I think, is lacking. At least that's my understanding at this point. So I think you play an important role by bringing up the question of the vulnerability of the ports.
I might add, although it's a time of concern about the fiscal situation in this country and dealing with the deficit and the debt, I must admit early on of being very much someone who believes that during my tenure and subsequent to my tenure, that the United States Coast Guard is one of the most overstressed, multitasked, underappreciated institutions of this federal government, and I think they are grossly inadequately funded for the multiple tasks they bring in their primary responsibility to this country. These men and women for years, no, for decades, have literally get pretty much what's left over when it's divided among the rest of the agencies. They have multiple tasks. And they just don't, I dare say, the generals and admirals in the other branches of the service would be up here en masse if they received as little funding on strategic needs that the Coast Guard does. And for whatever reason, there's this mindset that we're we can do. And I have to tell you, if you want to do one thing to improve maritime security in this country, and you go back and take a look at the Coast Guard's budget and bring in not just the incumbent commandant, but 3 or 4 that have preceded him. I can recall flying in a helicopter overseeing the G8 exercise at one time, and the pilot asked me if I wanted to grab the controls. So as an infantry soldier, I was really reluctant, but I'll pretend like I'm flying like that TV commercial. And I said to the pilot, I said, is this one of those helicopters that has a failure rate, an engine failure rate, that the FAA would have grounded had it been flying commercially? And he said, yes, it is. And one of the passengers in the back seat said, can we change the conversation? I remember going as secretary to appeal. See, you've opened the door for me, and I got to take advantage of it. Rarely do budget secretaries appeal budget decisions to the highest level. Well, I took the Coast Guard's budget number from up to the appeal board, and I brought in a piece of steel, a metal plate on one of their 20 or 30-year-old ships that had been bent because of the use, because it's a multitasked vehicle, ship. So if you want to do something really significant to improve maritime security, I think you go back and give the Coast Guard the money they need in order to do their job more effectively.
I would say, Congresswoman, we've done a lot of work on maritime security, looking at the process, looking at vessels, people, and cargo issues. We found, some progress being made in these areas, but it's very difficult to determine yet what the degree of progress and readiness really is at the ports. We've also, I've mentioned already, the transportation worker identification card and the problems associated with that. That has a lot of problems that needs to be addressed. And also the key issue regarding technology and how different technologies could be used to help scan cargo and containers. And we've done work, which I'll provide to the committee, looking at emerging technologies to really address that. The volume of activity really has to entail some technological solution.
Thank you very much. My time's up, but I will say until we are screening 100% of our cargo, I think we've got a problem.
I would just say to the gentlelady on that, there is a bipartisan concern on this committee. I would suggest actually meet with the Secretary. She takes this issue very seriously. And as a practical matter, the 100% is going to be difficult, but they are improving it, and they are trying to do it on threat-based analysis. But this is, we actually passed back in 2006. I know it's been continued since, legislation sponsored by your predecessor and also by Mr. Lundgren. And again, I'd say in a bipartisan way, we are concerned. We realize the vulnerability. And I remember just when there was a strike against the Port of Long Beach, I mean, the billions of dollars that were lost just in a brief period of time. Imagine what that would be if there was a dirty bomb attack in a port. So we share your concern. Thank you.